I'm Bob Wendover. We've all been there. You're discussing something with a colleague, an employee, maybe a vendor. The two of you seem to be making a decision as you hash out the issue. And yet your intuition tells you something's missing. Maybe it's a critical insight that's been left unsaid. Perhaps you can see that the other person is hesitating because they don't want to reveal something. Now, this leaves you with that uncomfortable choice of creating this awkward moment or ignoring your intuition. For many reasons, we have become increasingly hesitant to say or do anything that other people might find offensive. But with all the sensitivities that have emerged in today's society, that could really just about be anything, couldn't it? As a result, we're left with the tension between asking questions that need to be asked and the fear of upsetting someone or maybe damaging a relationship. The best decision makers have learned that the only way to gather information needed for well-considered decisions is to sometimes ask diplomatic but uncomfortable questions. So, how do they do it? Well, begin by considering whether the question is a legitimate inquiry. Now, if the information is essential or will be essential to making the decision, then frankly it needs to be asked. Recognize, however, that there's a difference between a true need and just being nosy, if you will. In some cases, the person being questioned may know the question is coming and will accept the fact that it needs to be answered even if it creates an awkward moment or two. So, once you open that door, you may find that asking the awkward question is really not so awkward at all. Now, next, think about the best way to ask the question. And many times diplomacy will save the day when asking about sensitive topics. Diplomacy also fosters trust. If the person trusts you, he or she is much more likely to share what's going to be needed. If the person takes offense, at least you know that you've tried your best to approach the issue in a considerate way. Now, the phrases that might help in this situation and frame the question can both demonstrate that it's a need to know, but also your sincere intent. You might say things like, well, forgive me for asking, but I need to know. Or you might say, I hope you won't find this troubling or awkward, but. Or maybe you might say, perhaps this is an uncomfortable question, but. Or would you mind sharing your thoughts about. Or I'm not sure you'll feel comfortable with my asking this, however. Now, it might take a bit of time to feel comfortable using these kinds of phrases, but they can be very effective at diffusing the impact of asking difficult questions. And finally, accept the fact that even your best efforts can fall short sometimes. If the other person takes offense, one of two things is probably going on. Either they're genuinely offended for some reason you could not have known about, or they're taking offense because they're attempting to conceal something of some sort. And in this case, a more appropriate way for them to respond to the question might be to say something like, I don't feel comfortable sharing that. But sometimes that doesn't happen, does it? Neither of these situations or responses is your responsibility as a decision maker, so don't own it. You might kind of think that it's unfortunate that the person is unwilling to be forthright, but that's that person's concern, not yours. The fine art of diplomacy has suffered in today's environment, hasn't it? Especially because of all our transactional kind of communication. The best decision makers, however, work to learn this art and maintain it. You should too.